Hello, everybody, and welcome to the MakerCast episode 39. It is. I am not alone. I have no idea how to use Maker, the StreamYard. So, of course, I'm just adding random people here. No, they're not random. This is the
Hello.
wrong
Hello.
interface. But we have no duck, so I paid for it. So, thank me all. Anyways.
Fancy.
Yeah. So, no kissing with the duck for anyone.
Mhm.
Wait, the last time I was kissing the duck and somebody was pointing that out. Anyways, welcome to MakerCast 39. What is MakerCast? MakerCast is something we came up with, I think, 3 years ago, and we're almost 3 years, more than 3 years. 39 divided by 12, definitely more than 3 years. We're hopping from channel to channel from any maker we can find who wants to host, and we try to find some people that want to show us their projects. And here with me today is Brian Lough.
Hello.
Do we do the what are you doing? Yeah, let's do the. I'm so sorry, Brian. Can you come back? Do you need a minute?
I'm here.
Yeah, just
hey,
tell us
so
who you
just-
are.
I'm Brian Lough. I'm a maker from Ireland, and I mainly do projects with ESP32s, and that's about it. Do you want to?
Okay.
Are we doing the round of intros, or are we jumping?
Yes,
straight into stuff?
we're doing the
Okay.
intros very professionally now.
Very professionally. Okay.
Yes, okay. I'm not clicking, I'm dragging. I made it full screen. Anyways, Guy.
Hello.
Hi, welcome back.
Thank you. This is good timing because I just got out of YouTube feedback hell where I had the actual live stream as well as our stream playing at once. And it was very confusing, but I'm glad to be here now. I'm safe from all that noise. My name is Guy Dupont. I am a maker as well. I am primarily a software developer, but I've been doing a lot of hardware stuff recently. A lot of audio-oriented projects. If you check out my channel, it's mostly nonsense, but it's fun. It's fun and it's good. So check it out.
Nice. Alrighty, and one of the new guests, Enwi.
Yeah, I'm Enwi, or you can call me Moritz. I'm from Germany. I am a software developer, and yeah, I'm 25 years old, and also do a lot of hardware stuff, or like Dupont. The current project is making the pick and place machine that Stephen Horst designed, and making my own PCB for it.
Very nice. All right, and Christian.
Hello, I'm Christian. I'm new here as well, at least on this side of the camera. I've been on the other side of the camera watching MakerCast many times. So I feel like I know you guys, while probably you don't know me all that well. That feels a bit awkward.
Yeah.
Let's change that.
Yeah.
So who am I? I'm actually a scientist, as Adam notices. Well, I studied physics once, but I work as a software engineer right now at a industrial control manufacturer. What I do in my spare time is mostly concerned with software as well. I particularly like visual things, anything to do with graphics, generative art, and such things. But I also like turning my software or the output of my software into physical things, using the digital fabrication machines that I discovered almost 10 years ago at the Fab Labs here in Switzerland, first in Zurich and then also in my hometown Winterthur. Laser cutters, 3D printers, CNC machines, and all that. Since last year, I'm also a staff member at the Fab Lab, at Fab Lab Winter here, which means I do a lot of administrative stuff to help run the Fab Lab. And it also means I hardly have any time anymore to do my own maker projects, So I need to find some balance there. I also teach some Arduino courses and some MicroPython courses at the Fab Lab. Where can you find me? I'm not on YouTube, unlike the rest of us here. The best place to follow my projects is on Twitter. You can find the link in the description. I post there about everything. Other than that, my projects are scattered all over the place.
Cool. So I'm gonna take over. I'm Dave Darko. I forgot to say that, I guess. Just to make sure, you're on my channel, so you should know that. But I'm a maker. I normally like to print on filament printers like this Prusa Mini over there. I just got the resin printer and tried it out today, so I'm looking forward to using this in my makings. And I'm also like to do some noisy PCBs and sometimes a bit artsy stuff as well. So you can find all of our social media and GitHub links for everyone down in the description. So I would say we start with the first person, and Brian was.
I volunteered.
He volunteered.
Okay, so I haven't been on Dave was like, "Oh, Brian's back." I was like, "It hasn't been that long, has it?" It was June. It was last June, so it's been a while. So I should have a load of stuff to show. I don't really have that much, but a couple of random things. Okay, so first thing I want to show is this is my Tetris clock. So don't worry, I'm not rolling this one out again because I've showed this a lot. This was really good timing too. So what I want to show is something that I've been working on, and I'm going to share my screen. I just released a video about it, and it is to do with. This is great. I don't know whether it's screen 1 or screen 2. I'm going to try and screen 2. Yep. Okay, cool. Right. So you can see here, so this is a web page, and I'm going to flash the ESP that's driving this display directly from this web page. So I'm just going to click connect. It is prompting me. I don't know which device it is. I might just plug out the other one. Okay. I'm clicking connect here. It's finding my board. I can click install. I'm not going to erase device, and I'm clicking next and clicking install. So what this is it's the ESP web tools, and what it allows you to do is flash binaries or full projects directly from the browser. And what's cool about this is, like, I don't need to have any software installed on my computer other than the driver. You need the USB to serial driver. And it allows you to flash the entire project. So you don't need to download the code. You don't need to download any dependency libraries or anything like that. So it's just a complete project flashed onto it. So you'll see this has now gone blank, which is what we wanted. And if we look in the console, it's just printing hello world over and over again. And if we wanted, while we're showing some other things, we can flash back the Tetris clock project, which is probably a little bit more impressive. I just need to close the first tab I was using first because it can't open the serial twice. And yeah, so it's going to go and flash that, and we'll go back to that in a second. I also had something else that I wanted to show here. I put it on my desktop. I might just stop the screen share for a second, Dave. Or could you just put it in the background, actually? Yeah, thank you. While I find the folder I created for this. I created a MakerCast folder, but I don't see it on my desktop.
It's not that many folders there.
No, but I think it's on the other screen. So, yeah. So, yeah, here we go now. Why aren't you playing? Cool. The video that I went to get isn't playing. Maybe I can move it across. Sorry about this. Maybe we'll just forget about that.
Can I ask a question while you're doing this, or
Yeah,
or are you
let's
like me and can't?
No,
answer
no,
a
no.
question?
You
Okay.
can absolutely ask a question. Yeah.
So when you finish a project, I assume that those websites you were just showing are like hosted somewhere, or at least sitting on your hard drive as a web page. What do you drop in there? Like just literally the binary that gets compiled for the ESP32?
Yep. Yeah. So where that website is hosted is GitHub pages. So
Oh, even
GitHub
better.
will, because one of the requirements of the USB or the Web Serial API is that it is HTTPS.
Right.
So GitHub pages supports that. So just one thing, it doesn't work on Firefox or Safari. It only works on Chrome, Edge, and Opera, and it doesn't work on phones either. That's like the browser doesn't support it. But yeah, it's literally the bin files that get flashed to your board. So how I was even extracting them is I was just putting on the debug messages on the Arduino IDE, and I could see like it's created it in this temporary folder, and I was just dragging those bins basically up to GitHub. The screen is ready there, Dev. So this is a project that I kind of didn't make really. So it's my wife has this greenhouse, and this is the old greenhouse, and I was going to make an automatic greenhouse window opener for her, and then I did some researching online, and I was like, oh wait, there's these purpose-made things that are way better than I'd be able to do it. So if I was making this, like Great Scott made one not too long ago, and he has a motor, and he designs a custom enclosure, and he opens and closes the greenhouse depending on how hot it is, and that's great. But like it requires power, whether it's solar or not, and it's quite complicated in some ways. Like it's an easy enough project, but like there's no power out here, so like that makes it quite more complicated. But I found this thing here. It's that silver bracket with the black bar hanging out of it. And so this is just a time lapse across like the day. And yeah, so what happens is in this black bar, there is wax in it. And as it heats up, it expands this rod. You can see there's a little actuator here that's getting bigger, that's opening the greenhouse, and like it automatically like opens and closes the greenhouse based on the temperature, and it's absolutely amazing. Like there's no way I would be able to create something as good as this for the money that it costs, or at least like there would be hours worth of work in like the designing the mechanism for it to happen, and then you also have to solve for power. Yeah, so someone mentions the glass is broken. That is unrelated to the arm. It came like that. But what's kind of cool now in a second is the sun starts to go behind the clouds, and you can see the actuator like go up and down, like as in it's quite reactive to like how the day is at the moment. Like, so you can see it's kind of closing down again, but then the sun comes back from behind the clouds and it opens back up, and then it gets kind of dark or whatever. So it's actually really good. Very impressed with it. So I had very little to do with that, but I just thought it was quite interesting. So, yep. And it does close again eventually. Yeah, so kind of cool for all you avid gardeners out there. Another thing I have to show is to do with the mini hot plate. So you know those these little guys. So these are USB-C powered hot plate, but they're very small. So like depending on the size of your board, they're perfectly fine. But if you have a bigger board, like something like the Trinity, if you want to do the ESP32, because it's over at the side, like it's not possible to do the ESP32 because it will just fall off. Like maybe if you kind of get it like diagonal, you might get it, but it depends on what weight of component is over here. There's a lot of true hole components on this too, so I won't be able to do it. But what I decided I wanted to do was make an extension plate for it. Now, this is something that was done before. Timon, who's on the MakerCast a good bit, has a 3D printed one. But I wanted to try make one out of a less heat sensitive material. So I made a PCB. It's a incredibly simple PCB. It's just abusing the limits of the 10 by 10 that JLC give. So the reason I have this like U shape is it allows you to put it kind of anywhere. So like if you had a really long PCB, you might be able to get it to balance wherever you need it to be. Yeah, so I haven't finished this project. I have two ideas for the legs. So one is what you see here is like some form of 3D print at the bottom. There's no copper on the PCB, so I don't think heat will really transfer across to the legs. And it would have to do a lot to get through there anyways. So that's one idea. And then the other idea for it is these. So these are a wall for the PCB. And the idea would be that I have some already unassembled here. So the idea would be that you'd solder them to the the platform. So there's pads on both the wall and on the bottom of the platform. So you could solder 3 of them around the place and see how you get on. So that extends the life. Why not get a bigger heated plate? Because I don't have a bigger heated plate. I have a small one. It's a fair point. You can get bigger heated plates for cheaper than the mini hot plate. But what's nice about the mini hot plate is that it's absolutely tiny and is powered by USB-C. So I can plug my laptop charger into it and power it, and away you go. That's kind of nice. And then the last thing I have to show, which is also kind of weird. It's not my project, but I recently got a steering wheel. This is a Logitech G29, I think. And we've been playing a bit of Formula One with it. And so I have printed parts for a new steering wheel. So I'm making a replacement steering wheel to make a Formula One style one. So I have some of the prints here. I have some like tape to like kind of sort of like, this is kind of layery and not perfectly printed. So the tape will hopefully like it'd be kind of nice grip wise, and also hopefully will be kind of hide some of the imperfections of the print. Yeah, so I have that project to do at some stage, and yeah, that would be kind of fun. Incoming gaming streamer, I don't think so. Not for me. But yeah, just to go back to what we were doing at the start. So yeah, that project flashed fine, and it's back now to the other to the other one. So yeah, like one of my like plans for the Trinity was to have like this big library of all my projects that you could just flash from the web. And there are some of them that are there, like some of the more popular ones, like that Wi-Fi Tetris clock one. But I think that's super nice. Like, is in a really cool way for sharing projects with people because it's super easy. I think that's it from me.
So
I've
how much?
rambled.
Yeah. How much is the USB PD heat plate thingy?
The mini hop. I think it's $70.
Oh, you could get another one. Then you have two next to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, like you can definitely, like, I think Dave, you have a huge one, do you? Did
10
you get
centimeters.
Okay. No, I think
Nobody
maybe it's
clipped that.
I think Colin Hickey bought like one that's absolutely massive or something. Was it like 20 centimeters or something? But yeah, like, and they probably were less expensive than this one, but they're physically quite large. With my patented extender plate, I can well, the one that's 3D printed, I could unscrew it, but yeah, the one that's soldered wouldn't be quite so easy to put away. But I can use it as a little table when I'm not using it.
Yes, we do. All right, cool. So, who wants to be next? Christian, you said you wanted to be next, right?
I'm next. Yep.
Yes. Okay, cool. So,
as I said, I don't really have any new projects to show because I'm just busy with other stuff. But since it's my first time on, I'm allowed to talk about old projects. So I'm going to show you some pretty old projects.
But not all of them, please.
Not all of them, no.
Okay.
I try to limit myself to 15 minutes or so.
Nice.
So let me switch cameras. This is the first thing I want to show you. This LV panel that was made. I started in about 2015. And this might look familiar to you if you've seen the work of Jason Kuhn, who's been on the MakerCast before. But it was actually developed independently. I only discovered him later and saw that he did almost the same thing with this flower-like shapes.
It's funny, actually, when I saw it, that Jason's projects were the first thing I thought of too, his Fibonacci boards or whatever he calls them.
Yes. And this is actually an unfinished project. I haven't worked on it at all for the last couple of years, but the frame here is preliminary, and the software is very unfinished as well. Jason has the better patterns than I do. These are just some experiments.
But it still works. How
it
old
works.
is it?
7 years. No, I started in 2015, so maybe the build is probably about 5 or 6 years old.
Did they even have LEDs 7 years ago?
Yeah, these are NeoPixel strips. They didn't have the API 102 yet, I think. So it has this knob here. Maybe I should turn on the light so you can see this better. It has this knob here. You can use to control it. If I push it, it just switches pattern. This was a prototype for a game. It turned out it didn't really work as a game. It was something Tetris-like, where these pixels would disappear when you match some of the same colors, and you can turn them in either direction using the knob. Didn't really work. Here is a game that works, and you can probably tell what it is. Snake game, right, on an irregular pixel grid. And you steer the snake using the wheel here.
It's cool because it looks more like snake scales.
Right. Yeah, that's quite a heavy necklace, Bitloony.
It's like that rapper with a big clock around his neck.
Okay, now I hit the snake and it display my score. So as you just saw, it can also display text. And to do that, it has a web interface. It has Wi-Fi. I'll show you that quickly.
What's running the display?
It's I'll show you in a minute. The control is a combination of an Arduino, Atmega something, plus MIPS chip that's running Linux. It's a 40 megahertz, 16 megabyte RAM, so really tiny one, but it runs Linux, and the application is running on Linux, and the Arduino part is driving the NeoPixels.
Yeah, because it was funny, like just judging by the timeline, I don't think like ESPs were that big of a thing back then, if they were even a thing at all. So it's like it's interesting how like even like maybe 5 years ago it would have had an ESP probably, or it could have had an ESP, It's interesting
totally.
how.
And I would have written it in MicroPython. So I can switch applications here with the web interface. I think we haven't seen this one yet. This is the clock. That's one of the first ones I made and also used to dimension the pixel grid. And as I said, I can display text here. So if I paste something here.
That's really cool.
Super trippy, but very nice.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that the closer you look, the harder to recognize the text is. If you look from afar and blur your eyes a little, then you can absolutely read it well. And if you just see the pixels, then it's absolutely incomprehensible. So there are other interesting things about how I constructed this. There is a lot of computation and numerical simulation and stuff about how I got this arrangement, but I won't talk about that. I gave a whole 40 minutes talk or something at the Maker Faire about that once. But I can show you what's inside. Let's turn it over. Unplug it here. So as you can see here, this is unfinished. There's a 6-year-old tape here that's not sticky anymore. This is that controller that it's Arduino shaped, but it has those two things on it. I won't take it off now. I can unplug this cable here and then open it up.
This is like way better than my finished projects. So put finished in quotes or.
And so now here you can see these NeoPixel strips. And this arrangement of these strips, that was one of the things I ran this numerical optimization for. So you have the minimum number of strips possible, so you don't have to solder that many wires. And here are some 3D printed bowl shapes to diffuse the light. So there are 3D printed parts in here. There are laser cut parts in here. There are CNC milled parts in here, and there are cutting plotter cut parts in here, and they all fit together. And I find that pretty amazing.
How was soldering all those wires?
That took a lot of work, but it was a small part of all the months of time I spent before on designing it.
Yeah, Great Scott did a 10x10 matrix, or it mightn't have been 10x10, but it was square. But he cut like every individual LED and soldered like all 100 of them. And I was like, you monster, like this is impossible. I did it and I cheated. Like basically I like put as many like full strips as I could I think I could fit 4 LEDs before the size didn't line up anymore. And so I had way less soldering than him, and it took me days. So I could only imagine how long it took him.
That was the LED bar project, right?
No, the LED bar used I think it used like regular 5mm NeoPixel style LEDs, but one very similar to the LED bar, just like a desktop matrix. Yeah, that's one of my unfinished projects.
Really love the locking mechanism here.
Yeah, the locking mechanism is amazing.
Yeah, that's one part that is finished. The frame isn't finished. I want to mill that out of massive wood, but I just couldn't come up with the design. I didn't like the design with the knob down here, but I intend to keep the locking mechanism.
Yeah, I'll take 3.
Yeah.
Just the locking mechanism. I don't need the. I'll handle the LEDs. I just need the locking mechanism.
Okay, I think no, I actually didn't publish the files. This is one of the projects that is pretty much undocumented. It's because it is documented on my hard drive a bit, but I never published it. So actually, the files for that are not published. You need to make it yourself. I'm sorry.
So Christian, like, what is, so if this is unfinished, what's left to do? What would you like to do with it?
Yeah, the frame is one thing. That's just MDF parts, and I'd like to have a frame of massive wood that's somehow nicely shaped. But as I said, I don't know what to do with the knob here. I don't like this bulge here. Maybe I need to make the knob separate or something. I don't know. And then at some point I just lost interest and was distracted by other shiny things. So it's unfinished now. And the other thing.
Just a question: is the knob also laser cut, or it looks like cardboard? But then
it's a sandwich of 3 MDF pieces.
Nice. Okay.
Okay, so I'll put this one away and show you the next project if we still have time for that.
We do. We definitely do.
Might be able to do a touch interface with IR LEDs and then the reflection.
Oh, I have no idea. Never tested that.
We had a school project where one team made an interactive board that you could touch. They had also LEDs and then a piece of pipe. And then it could sense if you put your hand in front of it by the reflected light back into the diode.
School has changed a lot in the 10 years since I was in school. Like, my projects were like, I don't know, adding salt to water to make electricity go through it or something. Like, as in no touch interfaces.
It was already 7 years ago.
Yeah. We built a transistor radio, and I had no idea what we were doing. But we had like a transistor in this big block, and then you were going with a banana cable from one module to the next, and then there was a resistor module. It was so weird.
Is this high school? Like,
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, high school.
Wow. I didn't even do stuff like that in college, and I did
electronics
and computer engineering.
Yeah, but it was material from the other country that I was born in. So yeah, it was the East German stuff that we worked with.
Now you're showing your age.
My friend and I also took place in the contest, and we actually made a smart home system. Programmed. It's up on GitHub. So if you want to check it out, it's called Home++.
Okay. Alrighty, I think we can go back to Christian, right? I was just using the table view.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll show you the table again. So the next project I want to show, because MakerCast is usually pretty electronics heavy, so this is something that is not electronic at all.
Oh, yeah.
The marble run that I once built for my nephew. Yep.
And then
Can I be your nephew? That's so cool.
And this is not just one marble run. This is a construction set that you can use to build 1 billion different marble runs. So where are the other parts? Here they are. So
we're going through all of them. I want to see all of them.
Yeah. It's the one. I'll count.
Okay, so these are laser cut plywood parts, and they snap together. Yep. And of course, each part can go in either this way or this way. So with 30 parts, you get 2 to the power of 30 different combination. That's about 1 billion, as it says here. I don't think there's much. Oh yes, there's one thing to say that about the shape of these parts. The shape of these jaws that was designed such that the marble. Can I show this? Rolls approximately continuously here, and it doesn't make stair steps. So
That's amazing.
I found that interesting. And
I'm legitimately waiting for my kids to be old enough to like where marbles are not dangerous to get them a marble run.
I made this when my nephew was 2 years old. So, but I think he's still enjoying it.
Nice.
He's 7 now. Yeah, I think there's not much else to say about this. The files are online if anyone wants to build their own. The link is here, or also in the video if you follow the links there. You can find them. I wrote a large article about that. Yeah, so that was the second old project, and I have a third one. Let me switch back, turn off the lights so you don't see my mess here in the back. My third project is too large to build up here in my tiny apartment, and it also takes me 3 hours to set up, so I'm not going to show you live, but I can show you pictures, and I can show you a demo of part of it. So let me share my screen here. I'll build the bowling ball run together with Bitlooney's necklace. Dave, can you show my screen? All right, so this is the next thing. It's an interactive installation that is basically a photo booth. So the visitors can come and stand in this cabin here and take their picture. And then the picture is converted using an algorithm I developed into a line drawing, and is then plotted out on the pen plotter here on the left using metallic ink on black paper. And this was at Maker Fair Bodensee in 2018 where I showed this. You can also see the marble run and the LED panel here. There are a couple knobs here that you can I show this? Yep. That you can turn to affect the image. These control the lights here. You can also move the lights around. So yeah, can show more of that. Here's another view from the other side. Here's the computer that it runs on. This is in my backyard because I don't have space to set it up in my apartment. I needed to do the tests in the backyard. Here's a close-up view of the tower with the plotter. I initially sold the plots for 10 Swiss francs or 10 euros, but later I switched to pay what you want because it seemed like the price was a barrier for people, and I'd rather have people engage with the installation than be discouraged by price to pay.
I'd pay 30 if I got to drop a marble after.
So
Yeah,
how do the portraits look like? I can see a bit of it, but
yeah, I have some of them in a minute. Let's continue here. So this is a close-up of the plotter. It's actually a cutting plotter, but it can be used for drawing as well. I use it a lot for paper craft. It's not completely automated. I still need to use the plotter's proprietary software to make the final plot. But since I need to set up the plotter with paper and pens anyway manually, that that wasn't the problem. My software just spits out the DXF file that I can load into the plotter software. So these are some of the portraits that people made at one of those exhibitions. I find them quite striking how you can get an interesting portrait with just these few strokes.
It looks very kinetic, if that's a word for art being used. But yeah, I like it. Cool.
All right, so this is version 2 of the control panel. It got a few more knobs, like the 2 buttons at the top. They changed the color, so you can. By itself, it just chooses silver for a highlight, and then red or green for a color accent. And then using these buttons, you can change to other colors. All the pens I have: silver, gold, red, and green. And you can, with the rotary knob at the top left, you can change the balance between choosing red or green, because it depends a lot on the lighting what it chooses by itself. This is at another event that was a promotional stand for the Fab Lab, with some more portraits up there on the laundry line. This was a visitor at that event, and you can see pretty well here how with those colored lights you can get interesting effects.
So the lights are there for getting a bit more contrast, or?
Yeah, right. I can show you next. I can show you a demo of the software that's running on here. So let me start that. Wait.
Is there any CNC machine you don't have, Christian?
Well, there are a lot of machines I don't have personally, but in the Fab Lab I have several machines, and actually in Fab Lab 20, where I'm most of the time right now, we don't actually have a big CNC machine for making parts like these. Yeah, maybe I should say, considering that this was actually a software project, I spent a lot of time designing furniture here. But that was fun too.
We have another customer, Alex.
Right. The plotter, well, it's disassembled now, and as I said, it takes me 3 hours to set up. But yes, I would like to exhibit that more Maker Fairs. I'm actually considering going to Maker Fair Baden-Württemberg in June, but I haven't decided yet. So if you can convince me to go there, then I will probably take it with me.
I probably will be there as a visitor. I haven't really checked if I can stay anywhere near, but yeah.
Okay, it would be nice to meet you there.
Cool.
Okay, I'm starting software now. Takes a while to start. So this is written in processing, and the number crunching behind it is written in Octave, and part of it is written in Python. So now you can see something. I can switch to landscape mode so you can see a bit more. And so maybe you can recognize my face here. On the left side, you just see a preview that's just straight lines, because I can generate that in real time. But generating the real picture takes longer. So if I push the button here, it starts generating the real picture on the right. And that is now drawn line by line in about 2 minutes or so. Yeah, let's just wait for that to draw. I also have the buttons to change the colors here simulated. And on the bottom you see some of the stages that it goes through to determine that 2-channel image from the color image of the webcam. On the left you can see the camera image, and in the middle you can see the 2 channels it extracted from it in red and green, and then the third image is the same in red and silver, so it's about a preview of what you will get. And then you have a histogram of the image that is used for the computation. You probably can't see that in the stream because it's small pixels and not bright. And then you see some numbers just to see some things moving there and see that there's some number crunching going on. Does the processing take 2 minutes? Yes, it's the generation of the final image that takes 2 minutes. This is what's running in Octave, and the channel separation is running in processing. So it's done with the silver color now, and now it's starting the red color. And now, as you can see, the silver and red strokes are pretty much in the same place here, so you don't get very good contrast, and that's why I need the strong colored lights from the sides to get more interesting pictures.
Is there like a plugin for using Octave with processing? Like how are those two things connected?
I can show you the code, how they are connected. They're just connected by standard in and standard out. So now it's flashed. That means it's done drawing back here, and I just somewhere here. Trigger. I just start Octave,
nice,
and then read its standard output and draw that.
Love it. Who needs a plugin?
Right. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to show about that.
Very cool.
Close this here.
Loop. Nice.
And I think I've probably used about twice the time I'm allocated, but
this happens here, and it mostly happens on my streams, so yeah, that's fine. But cool, yeah, very cool projects. Who wants to follow up? We only have 2 more people.
Do you want to headline it? I'm happy to go.
Okay, cool.
We'll let our new friend headline. Cool. Right. Am I ready? I didn't even ask myself if I'm ready. I think so. Okay. I have 2 things to talk about today. One of them is an update on an older project, and one of them is a new project. I guess I'll start with the new one. Should be pretty quick. So, do people remember this?
Envy, I'm sure doesn't.
Yeah, maybe there's like a small little one for younger people, right?
Do you know what it is, Envy?
Simon says, yeah.
Okay.
Sweet. All right. Yeah. So just in case anyone doesn't know, it's a memory game where this thing will play. These each light up, plays a light, shows a light, plays a sound associated with that light, and you have to remember the sequence, and then you play them back as it goes. And after each time, it'll add a color to the sequence, and you go as long as you can. And there's like multiplayer modes and stuff. I've always loved these things. This is one I got on eBay. It's from 1978, which I think is interesting. I'm not that old, but the one I had as a kid, I think, I don't actually remember if it was mine or a family member's, but I definitely used one of these original ones when I was younger. And yeah, so I found that there are a number of these available online on eBay that are listed as broken, not working. And I kind of hoped that if I bought them and took them apart, because they're a bit older, even with my kind of novice, electronic skills, I could fix them up, do something interesting with them. And so far that has proven to be true. So I really like this project because I'm taking things that were otherwise going to be trash. I've only bought ones that are listed as broken. So happy about that. And I just, if you're familiar with my projects, I really like doing the whole like resto mod thing where you build new functionality into an older thing. This one, I'll talk about what I actually did. The bit that I wanted to play off, the idea, the jumping off point for the project was, wouldn't it be fun to use this to actually memorize some large piece of information. Like what if we took this tool seriously and said, I'm going to use this to help me memorize the thing. So what I have it doing, if I hopefully plug it in here, it'll start up, it'll start blinking. I turned the sound off because I think I had some sounds loaded that might get Dave a copyright strike. So no sound. But so what this is playing through right now is the human genome. So it's our DNA has the 4 base pairs. I'm not a scientist. I don't know what I'm talking about, but A, T, C, G are the 4 different bases in a strand of DNA. And our DNA is just like a long ass list of them. So, so the bit is like, what if you could use this to actually try to memorize the human genome, which is impossible. It's like 3 billion, segments or nodes long. So that's where the project started, and that's been really fun. Got it up and running, and the way I ended up doing it, I had originally started with an SD card that held just the minimal like ASCII version of the human genome, and I was just loading it and playing it through. And at a certain point, I was like, it would be more fun if I could change what the game does, kind of dynamically. And so I ended up putting a Wi-Fi chip in. I used the ESP32C3. And so this is actually being driven by a server that I have running. So the Simon actually does virtually nothing now except for forward button presses to my server and receive like UI kind of outputs, right? So lights and sounds. So it's kind of overkill, but it allows me to change the behavior of this I don't have to flash this again ever. Like this is just all it's doing. It's going to talk to my server, and then I can very quickly iterate on project ideas, in code that I'm a little more comfortable with. So each one of these, like each segment that you see is actually a live streamed, like a packet. I'm using WebSockets. So I'm actually shocked that it's stayed on time this whole time, unless you guys have seen it. Like sometimes it dies out. My Wi-Fi is not great back here, but so each one of these is a packet that my computer is literally sending in real time. So so that's kind of, so I started with, a very specific idea. And then I was like, oh, I can kind of think of this as like a game platform almost. Right. And I'm thinking of like Google Stadia, all the new game streaming things where it's just a controller and a rendered image coming back and kind of applying it to this. So I'll show what the board looks like. Another nice thing about this is I was able to use only parts inspired by Brian, only parts that I had sitting around, which, I fortunately have some pretty generic parts that are very useful. But yeah, this board, it doesn't make any sense if you don't have the exact same parts that I do. But so I built it for that. But it's basically the ESP32C3. This is the M5 stack C3 stamp, something. I don't know. These are awesome. Thank you. I love this is like a $5 thing. I love the case that they sell with it. It comes with it. It like screws in and it gives you these really nice button like covers. So that's great. Just a regulator. This is an IO expander. I have some transistors on here for driving the lights. So you can use a different voltage. Like if you want to use the old light bulbs that were in there, you can do that. Or whatever. Basically, I decoupled the output from the microcontroller. And then I use this in like all my. I don't know directions. I use this in a lot of my projects. It's the DF Player Mini module, which is just a very cheap MP3 player. So you just put an SD card with some sounds in it. You send it some serial, and you say play a sound. And I'm using the original speaker from the Simon games, which was another goal here was to not break anything more in the Simon. So I wanted to use as much of the original hardware as possible. And it's I very lucky that it's such a simple game and circuit because I didn't have to break anything. The only changes I had to make, this is the inside of a different Simon. The only changes I made were I disconnected the original microcontroller and the shift register here, and I just nice clean through hole desoldering, and then that's kind of it. I just looked at how all the button matrices were working, and just used them as is. So I didn't really reroute anything. Like all I had to do was just plop that stuff out and patch back in. Some other little changes I made. You'll notice one of these bulbs looks a little different than the other. So it's pretty cool. You can just buy drop-in replacements for all these old bulbs. They used standard ones, which apparently was a thing you used to do in 1978. It was like use common parts. So even though I had two different revisions of this board with two different bulbs, both of them I found these little LED drop-in replacements for. The catch there is, so all these bulbs were running off of 3 volts. 3 volts? I think it was 3 volts. Yeah, it was 2 big like D cell batteries. So they were running off 3 volts. These I couldn't find any that used 3 volts. They were all like 9 or 12. So that is one other change I made to this board, where I connected the 2 power buses. The old devices had, they're pretty bright. I'm not using the right voltage, so they're not the most bright, but they're brighter for sure. But yeah, so the actual Simon had 2 completely different power buses at 9 volt for the microcontroller, and there's literally a 9 volt battery, and then a separate 3 volt for just the lights. And the thing has 2 battery compartments, which I had never really noticed that before as a thing, and it seems kind of crazy to me. Like you literally have this big hole for the D batteries, and this one was for the 9 volt. And so I just made everything run off of, I think I chose 9, and then I have just a little step down for the microcontroller.
Nice.
I went on for a while. Any other questions?
I liked how you were like, oh, it's kept up this human genome thing. Like any of us were like keeping track of. That should have been 2 greens.
No, I just mean rhythmically, because it's literally, I have my code is literally from my computer sending out a packet every, I think it's 200 milliseconds. So the fact that they're not like bunching up, and you might see some now, but the fact that they're showing up on time, I think is pretty awesome. But yeah, so some other things that I've done, and you can see these on, kids in the 70s were just filling landfill full of batteries. That is very true. The other things that I did, and I haven't done my YouTube bit for this yet, but if you go on my Twitter or I've been playing around with TikTok, which has been fun. I basically took the old original game and just messed around with it a little bit. So one thing I did was I replaced all of the sounds with bop it sounds, so a completely different game. And so the way the game plays is it'll show a light and it'll say bop it. And then you hit it and it makes the bop it sound. And then the next time it goes bop it, twist it. And so it's this kind of perverse version of like both things. And it actually is like fun to play because it messes with your brain a little bit. And then the other one, I had a friend request the Daft Punk Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger. So I have it. I think that's what it's rigged up with right now, sound wise. So it's the normal game, just different sounds. What else could you visualize with it? You guys tell me. Like that's what I'm really happy with this project is it's pretty trivial to change the behavior.
I mean, anything 4-bit.
Yeah, anything 4-bit. Like obviously you're limited by there are 4 colors, but like because the bulk of the code, the actual logic is running on any machine, like you can do some pretty intricate stuff potentially. So if you have suggestions, I'd love to play around with it more.
Could even be something like a build status sort of display or whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to have multiple lights lit up at the one time, right? It's very cool though.
Yeah. I do have it. So the other nice thing about using WebSockets, I have, and the reason I have multiple of these now is I'm working on online multiplayer. So you can have two people with two different old Simons, across the world and play against each other. And if anyone wants to help, at some point I'm going to do Twitch Play as Simon, where I'm going to have my Twitch chat, typing yellow, green, red, blue, and trying to get as far as they can through a game. I tested that like 2 weeks ago, and there's some challenges because there's like Twitch has some latency. But I'm really excited. I think it'll be a fun thing.
I feel like for that, so you mentioned before about like Twitch plays Pokemon being like an inspiration for this or whatever. There was this like big controversy at one stage where they had to enable democratic mode, was it? Or there was two modes, chaos mode and democratic mode, where democratic mode was like the most votes for the last minute or something was what won, and chaos mode was the first one that it recognized as soon. Like, I feel like chaos mode would be impossible for Simon Says.
Oh yeah, that wouldn't work at all. I actually programmed it with the democratic mode, where I have just a time buffer, and especially with the Twitch delay, where the display is offset from when people see it, and then their feedback is offset. I was just like, I'm just going to give like a 5-second buffer period, collect everything, and then just see which was the most popular. So that'll be coming soon. I'm nervous and excited to try that.
It's so cool.
Yeah, thanks.
You could let my Twitch viewers play against yours.
Yeah. Oh man.
So how much of the human genome did you already memorize?
It starts with red. That's all I got.
It's not bad. That's one more than I knew.
Yeah.
But what is red?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Red is red.
Yeah, red is red. Yeah. Someone else suggested another idea I liked was like using it as a HID device, and particularly a color picker in like Photoshop or something, where you have to mash the red to like increase the red value by 1.
Perfect.
I really like that idea too. So yeah. So the takeaway here is, like, unlike a lot of my projects where I start like with the vision very fixed, I design before I start doing anything, like, and I just try to execute on that. Like it was fun to kind of let myself go with the flow a little bit, especially with the project that's like ultimately it's 4 lights, right? Like I wasn't going to design anything crazy, but yeah, and 4 buttons. But yeah, it was fun to let the project kind of take me where it was going and end up with something ultimately like very kind of flexible. So
I was about to go to eBay to beat the rush until I realized I'm not allowed. Not allowed to buy anything. So
sorry.
That's fine.
Oh.
I have enough projects to keep me busy here.
Good.
I'll just play on your Twitch stream.
Yeah, if I really like if people are around, I'll try to like schedule it. But like I would really appreciate if people join. Yeah, DDR with that's a good idea too.
Guitar Heroes, another similar kind of bopping around.
MIDI controller for drums, maybe.
Yeah, the only thing, so
I bet it's loud.
It's loud, it's clunky, and the plastic wants, like, one of them I've broken. I think this one is broken pretty badly. Where like
guy's Wi-Fi.
You're
back.
I'm back. Okay, sorry.
The last thing you said, one of them is broken pretty badly.
Yeah. So there's plastic underneath that like counters the button press, like a plastic spring, basically. And the plastic after all these years is not holding up. So yeah, the buttons are not meant to be handled in a rough way.
They don't make them like they used to.
Fortunately, in this case.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about my other project now, unless there are more questions.
Yeah.
My Twitch is not in the description. I will throw it in the chat when I'm done
Cool.
talking.
Okay, so can I add the stream yet? No. I guess. Oh, there you are.
Well,
You glitched. Can I add it?
My screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, please. So I'm gonna go through this because I know this is not gonna be exciting for a lot of people. I'm gonna go through it quick, but it was an exciting breakthrough for me. One of my previous projects, which I talked about on the MakerCast, and I have 2 videos on my YouTube channel about, is I made these T9 predictive text keypads. So the idea is, if you remember T9 predictive text from your cell phone from the late 90s, early 2000s, you could type, words in whatever language. I imagine other languages besides English were supported, hopefully, using only the number pad on a phone. And the way it did that was it would look through a list, a preloaded list of words, and based on the combination of numbers you pressed, each number had an associated set of letters, and it would just try to match what the most what you were probably trying to type. It's predictive text. We know what that is. But so I built it into the firmware. I wrote it. It's written in CircuitPython, and it's built into this MakerPad, which acts as an HID device. And the way it works on your computer, or you can plug it right into a phone, is that it quickly injects backspace characters when it needs to replace whatever you've typed with a different word. Because as you add to the sequence, it has to re-guess what you were trying to type. And so it basically very quickly erases everything and retypes it. So it works on any computer because the computer just sees it as a normal keyboard, which is handy. So the big breakthrough I had on this is the way I had originally built it, written the algorithm, was it was optimized very, very heavily for searching through the data structure that represents the word library. And that data structure was laid out in a way that was very inefficient space-wise, because for the sake of making search very, very simple. And so what I ended up with, my library files, which is like a binary file, basically, have a ton of zeros. Just it's especially at the end of the data structure where the tree that backs it is very, very sparse. It's like an empty file and with the occasional thing in it. So the problem with that is one, it's harder to run on dev boards or with certain micros unless they have an external flash chip, which fortunately all the RP2040 chips tend to come with some beefy flash, but not a lot of other ones do. So I didn't want to eat up all of the flash with just the library file. And the other problem is if I wanted to add characters, so I only had considered ASCII A through Z, just 26 characters because English. So if you wanted things like accents, or I don't know what you Europeans call your O's with your fancy dots and whatever you got going on over there, I didn't want any part of it. But if I had to add anything like that, the size would have exploded even more. So basically, long story short, even though I told the long story, I found a way to compress the library file in a way that doesn't take a huge hit on search performance. And I'll just show this very quickly just to show what's going on. But so like I said, the library is backed by a tree that looks just like this, basically. We're going to pretend this is our library. So just 5 words. And it's basically every node in the tree is some prefix of a word in the library. And so you start, there's a root node that doesn't have anything, and then you have A, B, If there were more words, you'd have C, D, E, F, G, etc. And then there are child nodes based on every word or prefix that builds on top of the parent node. So this is what it looks like. And the way that gets written into a file, so the file that gets put on the flash is it basically just gets flattened out like this. So the tree is written, if you studied computer science, it's like breadth first traversal, or I actually don't remember what it's called, but you traverse it by layer and they all get written out sequentially like this. So this is how it used to look, where this down here is supposed to be zoomed in on this particular node, which is the B up here. And so each node actually held a space for every possible following character. And so, if B only has words with A that follow it, I had all of these zeros just sitting here, just null, basically, taking up all this space. And it made it easy to search because every node is exactly the same size. But obviously, like I said, when the tree is sparse, and if you look at like a language and you look at all the possible combinations of letters, there aren't that many really. So I was like, how do I get rid of these nulls? And the answer ended up being pretty simple. But basically, this is the new setup where I have a bitmap that starts each node that basically indicates the presence of the letters that are in the node and only those letters. So it does take up more space in the front. I think I have like a 8-byte bitmap, so 64 bits. But then I only need to keep the letter around that, or I only need to keep the letters around that might be following this. So so pretty simple compression, and it ends up saving a ton of space. I got the original library file that I ship these with down from 1.4 megabytes to I think 220 kilobytes. So there were a lot of zeros in there. And I think that's it. I didn't want to spend too long on that because it's it's theoretical more than anything. But I'm very excited about it because now I get to support other languages, which I know folks have been asking me about.
Oh, the word bitmap was so distracting. I thought you had literal images that you can look at now.
Sorry, a map of bits, not a BMP image. A map of bits.
I was just wondering because then it would mean you would have an actual image where you see the black parts because there's no data in it. That would have been cool too.
Yeah, I have just a PNG of the letter A stored at the beginning. But yeah, and if this was confusing, I apologize. I have a T9 deep dive video on my channel that I think I hopefully did a much better job explaining what I just did. So apologies, but the information is out there.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's it for me. I'm going to mute for a second, turn my light on.
Okay. I don't think we have any questions. Do we have any questions? No. So I would say we go over to enwi.
Yeah, let's do it.
Alrighty.
I actually have prepared not a project of mine. It's a work-related project, or it's my workplace. I could talk about all the other projects that I have, like this there, and the star, and the pick and place machine. But let's do something.
You'll have to watch his Twitch channel to see them things.
Yeah.
I want to see the triangles that you made.
Yeah, those are Nanoleaf clones, and
watch on Twitch.
Yeah, watch on Twitch.
And subscribe using your Amazon Prime. So give them that $2.50.
Helps out a lot. So if Dave would be so kind to show the screen. So I want to talk about my workplace. So as I said, I'm a software developer. and I work for the German Aerospace Center here in Jülich, or Jülich, if you want to pronounce it in English. And we actually have this solar tower power plant, which you can see in the picture right here. And it's mainly a research facility. It was completed in 2008, I think. I have a few facts about it here. And we are actually testing new components and processes, making solar plants more efficiently and less costly. Production processes are tested, for example, the desalination of seawater. So there's a huge amount of applications to use this in. So our field here in Jülich has 2,153 adjustable mirrors. So you can see those here in the picture. There's another picture from a different angle. And the mirror area is around 18,000 square meters. And these mirrors here reflect the light of the sun and concentrate it onto a target. And the whole field is around 10 hectares big. So it's for a solar tower power plant, it's pretty small, but it looks actually really big. So these are the two towers. And as you can see, we have on the left, the bigger tower is 60 meters high. The smaller one, his smaller brother, got recently added. And so what we actually do, the bigger tower here on the left is actually a functioning solar tower power plant and can produce electricity. The receiver up here, let's see, there's another angle. So the receiver up here is a volumetric solar radiation receiver, and it's 22 square meters in size. And if we concentrate all the mirrors onto it, like it's done on this lower platform here, we can heat up the ambient air to up to 700 degrees Celsius. And the surface temperature will actually be around 950 degrees Celsius. And then this hot air gets sucked in. And then you can use it to heat up water. And there's a steam generator inside the tower, actually. And that converts the water into superheated water vapor. And the vapor then drives a turbine that uses a generator to produce CO2 neutral energy. And actually all these components are inside the tower here. So there's nothing else. There's only a few, I'm getting ahead of myself here. You can see there are some cooling outside to cool down and recondense the water again. And the nominal electrical output here on this plant is around 1.5 megawatts. So not that much, actually. And the energy can be fed into the local medium voltage network. But there's actually no commercial use. And it's exclusively used for research purposes. And we actually don't generate any electricity. We just use it to test new stuff. So up here is the main receiver. Then on the left side, on the lower end, you can see the research platform. And that can be used for different experimental setups. And on the right, you can see the new tower that has been erected in 2020. So it's pretty new. And it's called the multi-focus tower. It has actually 3 levels that can be used for testing. And the upper level, is used to test the particle receiver with ceramic beads as the heat transfer fluid. So it's called HTF, heat transfer fluid. And those particles are also used for storage and transport of the heat. Then in the center level, we have stuff for process engineering applications. And there will be a receiver tested for solar water splitting. So it will generate hydrogen for, like, for example, a hydrogen car or something. So you can convert the solar energy into something else, a different medium that you can better use to store the energy. And then on the lower platform, we actually have a molten salt receiver that uses molten salt as the heat transfer fluid. 1,500 mirrors controlled by Arduino Nano. No, it's not an Arduino Nano.
Yeah, you have to use a Mega for that.
So how hot does salt have to get molten? Or what salt is it?
It's like 700, 800, 900 degrees, something. If you want to look it up, it's called solar salt or something. It's a special mixture. Since I only developed the software, I don't know much about the details.
Okay.
And yeah, the lower level also has a heat. Also has a pump and a tank and a heat exchanger for the whole thing. And yeah, the control software for all of this is what I develop at the DLR. And the control software can align a subset of the mirrors in such a way that several experiments can take place on the two towers at the same time. So we could have radiation up here and at the same time over here. And yeah, so I prepared some more pictures. So this is actually what it looks like broken down. You have the receiver, you have the heat going over here. You actually have some energy storage, so you can store the hot air in like a ceramic kind of porous material, and then you can use this heat at night to still be able to generate energy with the heat generator. Then you put that into a turbine and get energy through the generator. And then you condensate it just like a normal power plant would operate. So that's that. Then actually these receiver caps or cups look like this. So this is I don't know what the exact material is, but it's just like ceramic. So this is where the heliostats get concentrated on. That's what heats up, and then the air sucked through those little holes. And here's a very a very blurry image that shows it. So you suck in the air around here and get cooling from behind, which gets pushed out here and then gets sucked in again. And you have the radiation from the front and then get hot air out on the back. And this is a different kind of receiver cup that uses metal printing and sintering to make these small spikes. It's like something that we also test, like different designs. So this is also how it's built. So you have these cups that go into these trays, and then you have multiple trays that make up the whole receiver, and the receiver is actually a cylinder. So it has a cylindrical shape, and that's because if you imagine that you have the heliostats in the field at different angles compared to the receiver, you make it a cylinder so you can capture the rays of the sun from the outermost heliostats a little bit better, so they have more surface area. And yeah, this is one of the test receivers that was used at the research platform. I think this was a particle receiver, so there was bauxite. I don't know what the English term is, but it's ceramic beads were used in here, and those got heated up with the solar radiation. And this is what the heliostat field looks like from the research platform. And this is where all the solar rays get concentrated. What else? There are also different types of heliostats. So they can be as big as, I think those are, let me check. These are a little bit bigger than the ones that we have. Those here are 120 square meters each. So one of these heliostats is 120 square meter of mirrors. So these are pretty huge. Like a human would be the size of like up here. It doesn't show on the picture, but this is in Abengoa if you're interested. And so what else do we have? We also have a process to calculate how the mirrors are deformed, and it's called deflectometry. So we shine a projected image onto the calibration target, which is actually used to calibrate the heliostats, because you need to actually figure out what the geometry model of them is to be able to precisely put them onto a specific spot on the tower. And this same calibration target can be used at night to reflect some patterns on it. And then you have a camera on the top of the tower, and that can then see the reflected image in the mirror. And with all these patterns, you can use software to calculate how the mirrors are warped. And that helps to simulate all the stuff. So there's actually a different software that we developed that simulates these heliostat fields with a high accuracy using this data. And then also there's also other stuff that we test. For example, these are cameras that are directed into the sky, and they can see the clouds. And with triangulation, so you place multiple of those around the field, and then you can use triangulation to calculate the height of the clouds, the density of the clouds, and where the shadow is going to be in an hour or something. So you can adapt the heating of the receiver and such. So this goes into our software, and then the software can decide, oh, I'm going to change and move these heliostats around on the surface on the receiver, depending on the clouds and such. And this is what the cameras actually see. So you can see here, they look into the sky and see the clouds. And these are actually different cameras around the heliostat field. And then they do some image processing and calculate where the clouds actually are. So this is also a different plant. And if you focus all of the heliostats in the air and you have a little bit of dust in the air, you can actually see the focus point in the air. We actually had that happen the other day. No, they can't move fast enough to track planes. They are too far away. So actually here in Jülich, we had that happen with the Sahara dust. And it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago where we could see this same behavior. And this is most likely the off-receiver point. So that's where the heliostats get moved when they are not used to concentrate their solar radiation onto the receiver.
Nice.
And then there's also a cool project that we are working on, and it's with Barilla together, you know, the noodle company. And they will build in Foggia in Italy a solar tower power plant, just like in Jülich. And they will use it to generate electricity and also process heat to cook and dry the noodles that they are producing. So this is a very fun project that I'm also working on.
I need you to know that I just looked at this diagram and I saw the noodles, and before you said Barilla, I was just nodding like yeah, there's some bow ties. That makes perfect sense. That's so cool.
Yeah, this is a very cool project, and I hope I can see the stuff for real, because Corona and such, we couldn't go there and check things out. but maybe that will change now. So they actually have a particle receiver with these ceramic beads, and they have a heat energy storage. So this is a hot store tank and a cold store tank. So you heat up the particles to 700, 800 degrees, and then they get put in the storage container. And then you can use them at night to, again, use your turbine to generate energy and process heat. And then that goes into 24/7 noodle production. But there are also many different other projects that we work on. And then, let's see, I also have a picture of me standing up on the research platform, which is like 40 meters. And that's what you see when you look down there. And then I also have another picture because we have this, let's go back a few pictures. Since we made the new tower, we have this crossing here, this little bridge to get onto the other side, because there's actually there's an elevator inside this tower, but there's no elevator in this. There's only an elevator on the outside for lifting up heavy stuff, like for the receivers and such. So the only way to get up here is actually getting up with the elevator here, then crossing over and then going through on the stairs. And looking down there, this looks like this. Yeah, so it's pretty high, so not for everyone to go
This is
across
my
there.
worst nightmare. Yeah, I don't like heights at all.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably be okay with this actually, because it's fairly secure, but like, yeah.
But it's
Like
also
the-
see-through, so
It's like this thin,
That's
the
true.
metal.
Yeah. I'll have to go on a diet before I go up there.
And the whole staircase here is like actually made in the same way, like this. So it's a fun thing. And yeah, that's actually the end of my presentation.
Very cool.
So are there any questions?
Do you get to go home early in December, like when there's no sun?
Actually, actually, I'm one of the operators there, so I can operate not the power plant, but the heliostat field. And it depends if there's the research platform or the receivers. It's too many pictures. So there are actually different companies that buy or rent these receivers here and then can test their own stuff. So they pay us money to be able to set up their stuff there and test everything. And then we, the artificial sun, I can show this as well, but I don't have a slide for that. So we actually do the operation of the heliostat field, and they do the operation of their receiver. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. Like we have rooms with monitors covering the whole wall for the SPS stuff. So there's so much stuff going on in here. There's actually dual mode fiber cables going from the tower into the field for the communication with the heliostats, because with the new design of the heliostats, we actually message each heliostat once every second. So you can imagine how much data that is. And that's like 40 bytes payload or something. And then you scale it up to 2,500 heliostats and then do this every second. So 2,200 times 40 bytes packets going out and then getting the same data back. And then handling all of that, and then edge cases and emergency stuff, because there's a limitation on the wind speed. For example, if the wind speed goes above 12 meters a second, the whole field needs to go into emergency, or the receiver controller here measures a weird temperature, or we have infrared cameras and flux density measurement and so much stuff, and that goes into our software, and then it has to check if it's everything is fine, and to prevent like the whole tower going up in flames. And it's just so much stuff to talk about, actually. Where's the
so-
location of that solarium? The plant here is in Jülich, Germany. It's near Aachen. If you
Okay.
want to look that up.
Have you ever tried using this with the moon? Like seeing how much energy it would produce?
You pretty much can't produce any energy with the moon. There's actually an idea. So you can actually use these heliostats as a telescope. Like at night, you put
Right.
instead of a thermal receiver, you put up a different receiver, like for any wavelength, and then you can, I don't know, track the moon or any other planet or faraway star, and then actually use this as a big telescope. There are a lot of different things that you can do with this. And yeah, Bitloony wants to see the there's actually here in Jülich, there's also the Sunlight, which is an artificial sun. And actually Tom Scott went there and he has a video on his channel about it where he showed this huge artificial sun. Sadly, I didn't prepare a slide for that. So let's see if this goes. I will stop this. Try again. Yeah, there we go. So this, I will just do a Google picture. Here's. So the Sunlight. Let's go to the page of the.
Oops. I think we lost. Is that on
Okay.
purpose? No, you want to share the
I
stream,
need
right?
to share it again. Ah, there we go. So the Sunlight is actually 121 xenon discharge lamps that can be concentrated onto a single spot. And it's the 10,000 times the solar radiation of the sun that you can simulate with this. And this is what the lamps look from behind. They're like this big.
Do you shine them onto the mirrors or
No. This is
receiver?
a different building, and it's all contained inside the building. And you have the lamps on one side, and then you have your receiver on the other side, and then you orientate and focus the lights onto your receiver. So you can test the receiver even if it's raining outside or something. So yeah, Tom Scott actually put his camera here and let it melt, even though they only turned on like 5 of these lamps. So it's a fun video to watch. Yeah, but this is actually, the funny thing is behind the steel door, there's actually a meeting room, a conference room, which is like the coolest conference room that we have. Because when the doors open, this slides to the right, then you can see all these lamps like this. And this melts through steel like nothing. There's like this, here, something like this. Let's see.
What would it do to some noodles? Is what I want to know.
The noodle will be gone. Just only a piece of carbon.
So not al dente. Then I got it. Okay.
More than al dente. Yeah.
Al fuente. That's not a word.
Here's actually the other receiver. So as you can see in the pictures that I showed before, they tested the particle receiver first in the Sunlight, and then once testing has completed here, they move it to the solar tower, maybe, or maybe not. So they actually have also 3 chambers they can test at. So one on the left, one in the center, one on the right. Any questions?
I have a question about the power plant. I have heard that some of these solar concentrated power plants, they actually every morning need to burn a lot of gas to heat up their system to temperature, so they're not carbon neutral at all. Is that a common thing? Do your system need that too?
We have a gas burner in here for testing purposes, so we can run the steam generator and everything without having the solar energy here, but that's like for maintenance and such. But the awesome thing with volumetric receivers that use air, you can just heat them up directly and then wait until it's hot enough. The power consumption on the artificial sun, I don't know. It's 300 kilowatts. Yeah. So you can change the output from 1 to 300 kilowatts.
So that's 5 suns out of the solar sun panel thingy that you have. It's multiplying the sun by 5. Wasn't it 1.5 mega?
Yeah,
There's kilowatts and mega ohms
Yeah,
or megawatts.
the electrical output is 1.5 megawatts. This is like the light output, so you can't really compare that, I guess.
Kidding.
That's
That was a very bad joke. I was trying to. Anyway, so yeah, math. Okay. Yeah, no. I was a bit distracted. Okay, cool. Any more questions that are not involving any?
Have you got a mirror
dying in
named
the
after
sun?
you? No, sadly not. They are just called. So the first row starts with AA1, and then you have AB, AC, and then it ends at like B something.
Yeah.
So boring.
Just
Could have named them
German
like
things.
Pokemons or something.
Just write your name on one.
Well, actually, our software, the internal name is, or actually we are 2 software developers actually for the software, and we call it Golden Delicious. It's an Apple brand.
Nice. Also, thank you, Rota. What Rota says. Anyways, yeah, cool. Nice presentation.
Yeah, a little
Some
bit
stuff.
different than the Maker
More
stuff.
practical than the stuff that I do. So
Very interesting.
yeah. Also,
Actually, we are now designing a software, a new version of it, which is redone completely, like from the ground up. And that one has to be able to control 100,000 of these heliostats, not like 2,400, 100,000, like a tenth of a million. So that's a big, like design thing, or in the software to be able to output and communicate this data. Because the data packets will be the same, like 40 bytes for each heliostat times 100,000 every second. You can do the math on that yourself.
that's plenty of Simon Says. Yeah, not just one. Okay, nice, cool. Okay, so I think it's my turn now, and I just saw one project that I wanted to show off and almost forgot about. So this. Can anyone maybe see what I just saw? Yeah, it's a pretty nice thing. How can I actually demonstrate that? I have this camera set up here. I made a little.
I thought it was blue tape on your glasses, like you had broken your glasses and you taped them together. But now
No,
I see that it is a shark.
Yeah,
Is it the IKEA shark?
It is. It's the. Is it Bluhai? Yeah. I had a very different pronunciation of that word before, and yeah, it's. I used LED legs to make this little clip.
Nice.
Go that way. And
Blah,
this.
yeah, Blaha. Blaha?
No, I think the A with the circle on top of it is low, and then high for shark. We also say high for shark. So
That character doesn't actually exist.
Not in the T9 world, anyways.
oh yeah, I mean you
Callback.
could make a version for that, but
On it.
No.
UTF-8
Us weird
all of us.
Europeans don't get that. Irish, we've a few like fadas and stuff, but we've a few letters that don't like. We don't have. I think it's only a 22 character alphabet, so you know, swings and roundabouts. I can't even remember what you said.
Blowhigh.
Blowhigh.
Yeah. But yeah, I got a recent reminder of how to pronunciate it because Arturo was posting it like, how do you actually pronounce that? I'm curious. Oh no. Yeah, I did. I didn't say Blowhigh. I said Blahash because for some weird reason, I thought the J is like that sound. See. But, yeah, it was a quick idea. I was in the hack space when I had this. I was talking to someone on Twitter, as one does. That's where my inspiration comes from these days. And yeah, that was a quick grayscale on the blue piece of acrylic and then laser cut it. Yeah, the things you can do when you're at the hack space. Yeah, and I have another project that I'm currently still working on. And I'm gonna look. Oh, I'm still in the MakerCast Twitter profile. Give me a second. It's just easier when I go there. Okay, that I have so many projects that I work on in parallel. Screen share. Please be the right one. Yay! It worked. The last time it didn't work, so I'm happy about the Twitter sharing. Anyways, so we have a sewing machine in the hack space at Exine, where I'm spending a lot of time at. And yeah, I thought about doing this lab coat that Pilana Torres was wearing in like 2 episodes where she was pregnant. And I think it's half an season. But I really like the design and that you can store some tools in there. But I've never really sewn anything that big. I just fixed up some pans where where the seam was ripping apart. But yeah, so I bought some materials and then I forgot about it for 2 or 3 months, and then I finally started sewing it. And I was very tired at this point, but also very happy, and got this. Yeah, well, you see it here. I got it that far. I still have lots of material here that I want to fold over and then add a zipper to it. And yeah, the latest version looks like this currently. And there's some material that I have to take out here. So I have to take everything apart again after I marked where I have to remove some material and then stitch it back together. So yeah, that's lots of things to do still on this. And I also forgot to add the pocket here. And then there's so many things that I just have to fold over. Then I also want to make a gray version of this so I can then put it inside and have to also attach everything. There are so many things that when I'm sitting there and I want to sew, I'm just sitting at the table and doing it in my head because I have to go through all the steps, all the folding, all the inverting of the materials. And it's taking so much time, but I was so happy. Just the colors did the trick for me. Just having this so far and then see the yellow doing the weird triangle shape here. it's not really working here, but from afar it looks like, oh yeah, that's the lab coat. That's the Star Trek thingy.
Does it make you appreciate like clothes more? Like, it's in, you can buy a t-shirt
Yeah.
for like $5 or whatever, and it's like, wow, how, you know, there's so much
Yeah.
work into doing anything.
It really did, because I was on vacation for a week and was visiting my grandma. We went shopping, and there was, I don't know, I was just going through the pants, and then I saw that the insides where the pockets are, that some of those pants had extra material folded around the seams where the pockets were connected. So I kind of developed a thing where I was just seeing how much more work went into this pair of pants versus the very cheap stuff. So yeah, it was kind of interesting. I really enjoyed that. Yeah. So yeah, lots to do. And
Looks cool, Div. Do you think you'll do more? Are you liking the sewing or stitching?
yeah, I think I have like 1 or 2 more projects already in my head. And one thing is making a copy of the Lough. I already bought the felt and made a joke on Twitter about it, so I kind of have to do it, because I posted a picture of the felt and was like, oh yeah, IKEA. You have to put everything together yourself. I brought a Lough, but yeah. Right, and there's also the other Star Trek uniform that I want to have at one point, but yeah, that's so much more of the folding and then more sewing where you just draw lines with it, and much more work.
You got some questions coming in?
Anything beforehand? No, just I had this workshop that was going for 3 hours, where we just started to use the machine to fix our pockets or do a little, I don't know, I don't know, like a pillow thingy, not even with a zipper attachment. So my main knowledge is really just from watching a lot of YouTube videos about it. And then, yeah, just going in my head, trying to sew it without really sewing it. And yeah, there's some pretty cool YouTube channels about sewing. Yeah. Question. Oh yeah, what about Sims? What about okay? Anything sewing related? Probably not. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the Sims stuff then. So there's a chip that you can get for 4 to 5 euros. That's called the CEM 3340. It's basically just a the chip is a voltage controlled oscillator, which means it just makes some fine noises for you, and you just have to attach 1 or 2 like resistors and capacitors, and then it's going. And yeah, I think it's also there's a different version. I think the CEM is an original, and I got a clone of it like 5 years ago, and I was finally starting with all the Eurorack stuff, and thought, hey, I have to make a PCB or make a module for it so I can use it. And that's what I did. And it's right here. I've made 3 PCBs, because you have to stack all these PCBs in a way, and it has to be a certain width. So yeah, most people just have this panel, and then you have a PCB where you put all the knobs and all the sockets for it, and then you connect it via some headers, and then there are all the chips and the resistors that don't have to change. And yeah, that's what I did, and I soldered it together today, and I can demonstrate it, but it's really annoying because I don't have anything good to control it.
It's quite loud as well. Just a heads up to people if you're wearing headphones.
The problem is I can't really hear it, so
Rest in peace, headphone users.
I hope it's not too loud.
No, that's fine.
Okay, so yeah, it's not screwed in because I forgot all my M2.5.
You could probably even turn it up a tad bit more, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So it's not really that fascinating. There's a square wave coming out of here, and a triangle wave, and a sawtooth wave. And I'm just gonna use the triangle. It's much softer because it's not really aggressive.
We need louder. Oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So the cool thing with this starts when you put in a control voltage, and I think it accepts the between the what is it? The octave. You can play notes between 1 volt. It's 1 volt per octave. So if you put in some random voltages, then you can change the tone of this, and then that's where it gets interesting, I guess. But now I have this module, and it works, and I have 3 more chips, so I can put more together and then just get creative with that. But yeah, looking forward to that. Otherwise, it's just blinking nicely.
I have a question more broadly. Is it pretty common with modular stuff? Like I know the whole point is to be patching, right? And like that's literally the whole point. But as a guitarist, I get so anxious watching people pull live anything, right? Like pulling cables, wires. Yeah. Is that a consideration when doing stuff like this? Like, do you have to worry about sudden spikes or whatever, or is that just kind of accepted that you're just going to make a bunch of?
I mean, there's always this experimental part in it where you can just so you're actually expected to just put it in somewhere and hopefully it works. And there are also some design considerations that you have to make. Where it might be an output and you're connecting it to a different output, and they shouldn't interfere. So there normally is another buffering op amp that gets a signal that you want to send out and then buffers it and then sends it out. So you're not influencing maybe an resistor capacitor thing that's oscillating, and when you're plugging in something else or connecting it over resistors, that you're not influencing the sound that you're making with that module.
Yeah, I think that was what I was trying to ask, is like how, because it's such an experimental thing, like how much do people take that into account to protect whatever? Yeah. But yeah, okay, that's cool. Thanks.
Like you probably want good ESD protection as well.
Yeah, probably, but yeah, I haven't zapped anything yet, and my chair gets really wild sometimes. I really have to replace it, but I had this random Polly Pocket thing that always plays a sound when you open it, but the other day I was just sitting down and suddenly the music started playing in this weird toy thing. I was like, okay, it was half a meter away, and it kind of zapped it into life. I have no idea how that happened, really, but
wizardry.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Right, and the next thing that I wanted to show is basically just me showing off because I got something from, I think, Crowd Supply. Yeah, it wasn't Kickstarter. Oh, also, this one was a Kickstarter, but the thing that I want to show, change the camera. This is pretty nice. Yeah. I had it. I almost had it.
I have a project I meant to finish. That's like a focuser for these cameras, but
Yeah,
never got around to it.
I think
Actually, it's on GitHub if you want to
Yeah,
do it
I
yourself.
think I tried it even once, but this was like, oh yeah, right, I could try to stream this. But anyways, this is a fully working tiny Game Boy, and there's a little OLED display in there. It's called the Thumby, and I saw this, I think, 5 years ago on a Maker Fair in New York. I was holding the very first prototype of this, and you can actually play this.
Does it run Doom?
I got this question before. If you can manage to stream the data to it, maybe, I don't know, but wasn't Doom recently ported to the Raspberry Pi 2040?
Yeah, I think so. I think the ESP32 is the port of it as well.
Okay, because in here is a 2040 chip, which is pretty nice. So it could run it, but yeah,
Probably.
the display would be very shitty.
Do you have any like plans for it? Because like stuff like that, every time I see them, like, oh, they're so cool, but I would literally never use it.
Yeah, I don't really have any plans for it. It's added to my collection of random Game Boy shaped handhelds.
That's a plan.
And also I kind of got other colors as well because I don't know. It was like I also want 2 other colors, but I got this gray version. And then the special Kickstarter edition, a golden one.
Fancy.
Mm-hmm.
I still need to get around using this WT32SC01 touchscreen with an ESP32 on it. That was made by... Who made this?
Is it the other David?
Is it a touchdown?
No, I think it's... Who made this? I just bought it. And wait, it's made by... No, this is not the...
It's not Dustin's one.
No, it's not Dustin's one. It's just an ESP32 something and the touchscreen on it.
Okay.
And I wanted to use it like as a remote control for Home Assistant or something like that. It has a USB-C and everything on it and expansion on the back.
Oh, not the other David, the other Watts.
Yes.
Oh, there you go. So this is
But yeah.
the back. And the
Okay.
front has a little sensor over here and such.
Hmm.
So
I
it was
think somebody did port like a Home Assistant remote to the touchdown, which I'd imagine they're like similar enough that that might be a good kind of starting point.
Oh, it's from Seed Studio, I think.
No.
Yeah,
So
I have to
I think
make
what
sorry, go ahead, Guy.
I was going to say, I think what we're all saying is that Dave needs to use the Thumby as a Home Assistant controller.
Yeah.
I just
With its
split
lack
the
of
screen
Wi-Fi.
and then
Yeah.
gonna make a very tiny touch down thingy. Split the OLED into 6 screens and then
Yeah.
I think I think the MakerFabs one is red. I have one at some stage. I got the free touch deck working on it. But now I also have a touchdown, so that I also don't use. But I must do something with it.
yeah.
Should stop buying stuff.
And
Finish
start
all these
projects.
Yeah. Finish
so you can-
greenhouses first, and then I can.
Buying stuff is so much fun.
It
Mm,
is, but you know what? It stresses me out trying to find places for things. But now I don't have as much of that to do when the income of stuff stops.
yeah. But you're still doing you're not buying anything right now.
No, I did buy the I did buy the tennis racket strap for the controller
No.
or the steering wheel, but I have not bought anything else yet so far.
Okay. That's yeah, I bought a 3D printer on Kickstarter as a joke. So it's much more sensible not to buy anything. But yeah, there was that's how I got the Anycubic here, the Photon Ultra it is. It's a DLP. There's a DLP beamer in there, so yeah, it's supposed to have a really good quality. And I was like, oh, that sounds really nice. And also, I don't really like how the whole 3D printing community is giving them shit for just putting it on Kickstarter. And now I understand why it's not such a good idea to put 3D printers on Kickstarter.
Why is it not a good idea?
So when they started it, they had this early bird release, and it was much cheaper, of course. And Kickstarter crashed, so everybody was like, "Oh, I had one in my basket, but then I couldn't pay because the whole thing crashed." And so they had this huge load of just work ahead of themselves to talk to everybody about this. And then I was waiting for a long time, and then there was a blog post where they were like, "Oh yeah, we started shipping, and wow, we got everything out." But that only meant that they were sending it from China to their just the places that send them out in the country then. And at one point, I was like wondering, okay, everybody's getting theirs, and everybody was like, okay, yeah, I got the printer first, and then I got the tracking number for it, and then a week later the resin came, and that's exactly what happened here. It was like first the printer, then at one point, I think I even got the wash and cure station first, and then the tracking numbers for everything, and then I knew that my resin was at the post office. So yeah, I think if they just sell it from one place and put everything in one packet, it's much less complicated. And that was definitely an experience. But hey, I got the printer.
I got offered something from a Kickstarter, like to review something for an upcoming Kickstarter shortly, and I'm really torn about it because the thing is something I'd really like to try out, but I'm also pretty sort of conscious about like if I review it and it's really good and then people back it and they never receive stuff, or like the thing they sent me was a cherry picked like prototype and what the end user gets is awful. So I'm pretty conflicted about it at the moment. It looks so cool.
I also received a very conflicting thing, like from what's the company called? Lenovo, actually. I think they made this. Lenovo made this lease PC, this like a single board computer like the Raspberry Pi.
Okay.
And that actually features, let me take a look at the manual here. They actually sent it to me because they wanted me to make a review of it, because I had these Raspberry Pi videos that got viral on YouTube, I think. So they sent this to me and said, yeah, make a video on a project, something. And I said, yeah, I have this cool project. I want to display Home Assistant on the screen and make it like put it on the wall or something with a touch interface, which this would have been perfect because it has it actually has a dual lane interface for cameras and screens. Like the Raspberry Pi has a single lane MISI interface or something it's called. Or correct me if I'm saying wrong stuff, but it's like this this serial camera interface and this serial screen interface or something.
Okay.
And the issue with this is this runs actually Android and Linux or something. And I wanted to have it in Android mode, kiosk mode, and then just open the Home Assistant app. And the issue with this was that they don't have drivers for driving the displays. So you have these connectors on here, but you can't use them. And
That's that's one of the big problems. Like, you know, when you're competing against something like a Raspberry Pi, like they have software support for everything.
Yeah,
like,
and they have so much good stuff on here. You powered it through USB-C. You have an HDMI. You have a 1 gig Ethernet connector. You have USB Type C, USB 3 connector. Everything on it. You have pin headers.
This should be your video. So good, but so.
You can put in a SIM card. You can put in an SD card. You have an M.2 connector. There's so much stuff on here. And I can't just use it. I told them, if you want me to make the video, you will have to edit the software. So they never got around doing it. So it's just
sitting there
doing nothing. And and I think they binned the whole project themselves. You can't get it anywhere and such. And it was just so stupid.
Reminds me of the printer firmware or the software for it. I only got the working slicer for it on a USB stick, and the GitHub page is like 8 versions behind of this one. And when you just download the normal slicer from Anycubic, there's no printer. There's no Photon Ultra to choose, and also the Photon Ultra is nowhere mentioned on the webpage. So this is like, what do I even do first? This is my first resin printer. Where can I go to? And then I was like on a Facebook page, and somebody was like, oh yeah, does anybody have the contents of the USB stick? I accidentally deleted it. And I'm like, oh, there's a stick. But yeah.
The dumb thing about this is I actually made an adapter board so I have this Raspberry Pi touchscreen. Technically, I made an adapter board so you can hook it up to this. Then I hooked it up and nothing worked. So I was like, can you explain this? And they said, yeah, we haven't done the drivers yet. And but this PC is really cool. It has a Rock chip and RK3399 and the Mali GPU and stuff on it. 4 gigabytes DDR4 RAM and 16 gigabyte eMMC. You have 4G LTE on it, and native gigabit per second, Bluetooth 5.0, Wi-Fi, and there's so much cool stuff on here.
Yeah,
I thought that would have been expensive.
Yeah, it cost like $70 or something.
That's way less expensive than I was guessing. I was going to say like $300.
Yeah, Raspberry Pi is running for $70, I think, right now.
I think they wanted to sell it for $70 though. This is a pre-production model that I got.
Yeah.
I'm sure even like a 4G module is pretty expensive.
You can actually buy it on Mouser. I know they don't have anything.
All right. I don't have a quiz prepared, so we're at this point where I just can end
actually, it is
stream.
260 euros on AliExpress.
That sounds about right.
That sounds more, at $10 for every function that you just counted, and then
times 100.
Oh yeah, give me all the booze in the chat, please.
I feed on your booze.
Yeah, that's not healthy. Anyways, I think that was a pretty cool round, and I'm very glad that everyone has been here. And I'm not sure who's hosting the next time. We have less time than ever to decide on that.
We've ran late before.
Hmm?
We've ran late before. Like we've had a week delays before, so.
Yeah, I think the last time was also me running a week late. I'm not sure. Or maybe I jumped in. Yeah, because I paid for the duck and then we could use it twice. And then, yeah, right. I ended up in the hex space. And then we were streaming from there. That was, I think, the last time. Anyways, yeah. So let's end this. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Time form. Anyways, thanks for everyone in the chat. And I hope we'll see us the next time. All right. Bye everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Or good
End
morning.
broadcast.